Hey buddy, what a wonderful summer day, isn't it? You probably really want to go fishing, but you have very few supplies and they cost a lot. So in this video, I'm going to tell you how to make 5 cool DIY fishing gadgets from improvised materials. Number 1 here is homemade fishing weights. They are very cheap to make. They're made from lead and you can shape them any way you want. Any weight. They can be used for different setups, like for a bottom fishing rig, a casting rod, and other fishing DIY projects. So to make these homemade weights, we will need some lead. In my video, I extracted lead from an old battery. I took apart an old, no longer needed battery that had gone out of use, extracted the lead, and chopped it into small pieces. The smaller you chop the pieces of lead, the easier and faster it will melt. You can melt lead in different ways. I melted it, right with a torch in an old pot, or some other container. But if you take for example a tin can, that won't be enough. Then I used a regular teaspoon and poured the lead into it. I made a small loop in advance out of wire, placed the spoon in it, and then poured the lead on top. And I ended up with these weights already with the loop. To make a cone-shaped weight, you need to take some paper. Roll it into a cone shape, place it in some cup or container. Just like that, I, for example, used a plastic cup. You can just bury this paper in sand and pour the lead into that paper as well. The paper will burn a little, but the lead will cool down quickly. We will get a cone-shaped weight. It's already a cone-shaped weight. You can see in the video that I just inserted a wire there, so that I can get the same result. Here's the finished attachment for this weight. Now I take out the paper, unwrap it, and I have a regular cone-shaped weight, guys. Each of us has a bunch of fishing floats. But how do you store them? Where do you store them? They keep breaking all the time. They bend. There's no space in the box. That's why I made a homemade tube out of PVC pipe. Now I'll tell you how easy it is to make it, friends. Actually, there's really nothing more to say. It's so simple that I didn't even bother to film this video. You take a regular piece of tubing and you take a cap. I sealed the bottom with foam using hot glue, and that's it. I made a small handle at the top using a zip tie. And now it's very convenient to open and close the tube. All the long floats fit in there that I have. You can see how many floats fit in there, and they are all intact. The only thing I changed, friends, when I was already filming this video for you, I took this tube and painted it a bright color. Because such an inconspicuous gray color of the pipe can get lost during fishing. More than once. When I was getting ready to go home, I looked for this tube with floats, checking if it was in place. So paint it a bright color or cover it with some stickers so that it is very noticeable. It really stands out, and you'll never lose sight of it. Overall, friends, it's a really handy thing. I recommend everyone to make one. At number 3, we have a homemade vibrating lure that you can make from a regular spoon. The lure works really well, and the pike responds to it 100%, friends. She loves games like that. You can make the lure in just a few minutes, and it can really save you in a tough situation. I think everyone has already understood that we will need a spoon, whether it's a teaspoon or a tablespoon. We need to cut off the handle with a hacksaw for metal. We'll end up with 2 parts, the spoon itself and its handle. Next, we'll need to use a drill or a drilling machine. It doesn't matter, just make a hole on one side and the other side of our spoon and handle. By the way guys, you can make the lure not just from a spoon but also from a handle. It also turns out to be small and light. A wobbling lure, let's say, for perch. You can see we ended up with this small lure and this big one. I took some rings from old lures that were rusty, hooked them onto a T and attached a ring. Now it will be convenient for us to start on our lure. And I want to assure you friends, this lure works really well and will have a big effect. The 4th DIY project is a marker float. It's needed to study the bottom's relief to understand where the different depths are. With its help you can measure the depth and understand where to fish. where the depth is greater, there are more fish. I'll show you how to measure the bottom and find the depth using a marker float. I made it. Myself, you can't use anything. Last time I used the Kinder egg barrel. This time I bought one from a fishing store. Here's a big float, and we can see what it's made of. A weight. Some kind of sliding weight. I have a weight of about 100 grams. I have it. Yes, that's the kind of load. Then, any float will help us get the weight to the bottom. And the float was rising up. This is how it all works right now. I put a bead in there. We can see the bead. Here's the bead, so that it's better to have our bead so that the float doesn't get stuck here. So in this way, look, we take our system there where we want to mark the depth. We take it and cast it. And secure the spool. I'm doing this, and we wait until it touches the bottom. There's bottom. And now look, I'm working on the arm, and I know that I have 50 centimeters here. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, well, about 9.59. 9 turns at 50, 9 divided by 2 gives us about 4.5 meters at the depth location. This way, I walk along the shore, casting further and closer at this spot, looking for the area where the depth is greater. So, I bait the depth, start fishing, that's it. And that's basically all there is to the marker float. Now I'll show you again up close. This, once again, first the weight, some kind of shot, any foam, a small piece of foam, even a bottle. The main thing is that at this moment, look, when casting, the float should be floating. First we pull it in to the bottom. OP, there it is on the bottom. We feel the rod, and then we start reeling in the line. Like this, if we have a strong float or a weak weight, it will affect how we lift the rod. Here we see the float at the top, so the weight will be rising. It needs to be a balanced setup. Do it slowly. Like this, just back. The next DIY project. Friends, this is a feeder that can be used for bottom fishing, for casting, for a float, and for feeder fishing. They're made very simply from regular wire. By the way, you can use regular steel wire, but it's better to use copper or aluminum. It won't oxidize and rust in the water. So, in my case, it's steel wire. You see some kind of frame, a key, a candle, and I take the wire and wrap it in a spiral around the key. I make tight coils so that our spring turns out to be quite dense. I'm going to fish in the current so that the bait doesn't wash away too much and stays well in the feeder. After that, we need to bite off the edge, which is long, and I bend it into the middle of the feeder so that it additionally holds the porridge and the fishing line does not get tangled in it. We don't need to think about it, figure out how to hide it, but I just bend it in the middle and it remains inside the half-ring feeder. It finishes the top edge. You can come up with it however you like. For example, I take it and make a little loop. You can attach it directly to the line at the bottom, for example, if it's some kind of bottom rig, or you can attach a snap or a swivel. And so, this is the feeder for casting that we have ready, friends. It's made very simply, as you understood, right? You can also make a spring like this that will slide along the line for a sliding feeder. I really hope that you watched this video to the end, gave me a like, subscribe to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, I have a lot of cool videos. I also recommend you check out the summer DIY projects right now. They're really good. The video is about how to make a rocket out of a bottle, and of course everything about fishing is in my playlist. There are a lot of videos here where I tell exactly how to make gear where I fish. In general, everything I know about fishing I share here. Guys, I wish you all the best, tight lines, and may you always have great fishing. Bye everyone.